Hey guys, good Thursday morning. Happy Friday Eve. I am Adam Bennett. I am filling in for Brandy Smith this week. Those of you who watch know that she normally does the morning digital update, but it's kind of been a crazy week on the morning show. So probably like where you guys work, we have a lot of people that are still taking vacations from Thanksgiving. A lot of people still trying to burn off vacation days before the end of the year. So H-Town Rush has been a little bit crazy this week. Xavier's been off. Brandy has been filling that role as the main anchor on H-Town Rush this week. I've kind of been taking her role as a social media reporter. We've had Erica doing weather. Cheetah's been out. Also Janelle Bluda doing traffic for Doug, who is doing it for Stephanie. So we had a little bit of a kind of a crazy lineup change, but I'm going to try to do my best to follow in Brandy's footsteps here. I know she does an amazing job with this. I've been able to watch her the last couple of days. I actually helped her out a little bit with this yesterday. So just kind of bear with me here as we go through the morning's headlines. So you guys probably know if you've watched this before, the idea here is really just to talk about what some of the big headlines are this morning and what's trending. We really try to make it a conversation. We love your comments. We love your questions. And we try to be as interactive as possible. I've got Jaime over here. He's amazing. He is monitoring some of the comments and questions that you all may have on the feed. So we'll try to get to those a little bit later. But I figured we'd go ahead and start with some of the biggest stories from this morning. The really big one actually has been just within the last 30 minutes. This was a major announcement by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She asked the committee chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. She said at one point, quote, "The facts are uncontested. The president abused power for his personal benefit at the expense of national security by withholding military aid and crucial Oval Office meeting in exchange for an announcement of an investigation into his political rival." She went on to say, "In America, no one is above the law." We also heard that the House Speaker got a resounding yes from her members when she asked yesterday if they were ready to go ahead and take that next step towards impeachment. You may remember just yesterday, the House Judiciary Committee held its first impeachment hearing. We heard from three leading legal scholars who testified that President Trump's attempts to have Ukraine investigate his Democratic rivals were grounds for impeachment. A fourth expert called by the Republicans, though, warned against rushing the process. So we've heard a lot of questions about next steps before. The next step here would be that the Judiciary Committee would write up one or more articles of impeachment. That could be voted on before Christmas, so this process could move along at a pretty quick pace. Now, the House would only need a simple majority on any one of those articles of impeachment. It is a Democratic majority House, so a lot of political experts think that is a pretty likely possibility. If that does go through, if they do vote to impeach President Trump, he would be only the third president to be impeached. The others were Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton. Now, something important that a lot of people get confused about is an impeachment. Impeaching a president is basically like charging them with a crime, like out in the criminal courts in the civilian world. That doesn't mean that he's going to be removed from office. At that point, if he is impeached, this would then move to the Senate, where the Senate would hold a trial. And the senators are basically like the jury. They would need 2/3 of a vote for conviction and potential removal from office. Now, the makeup of the Senate obviously is completely different from the House. Republican majority here, 20 Republicans would have to join every Democrat and independent to get that 2/3 majority in order to remove the president. So most political experts here agree that's more than likely not going to happen, but we'll have to see what ends up happening in this case. President Trump, of course, he has denied any kind of wrongdoing, and he calls the whole impeachment proceeding a hoax. Okay, for our second story of the day, this actually just broke within the last few hours. Totally different kind of story, but one that's grabbing a lot of headlines as well. This one is about Joel Osteen from here in Houston at Lakewood Church and Kanye West. They announced that they are going to be holding an event. They're going to be teaming up again, this time at Yankee Stadium in New York. It's going to be on May 2nd of next year. And this is going to be part of Pastor Osteen's America's Night of Hope tour. It's basically a tour that he takes to several cities around the country. We're expecting to hear a sermon from Joel Osteen. And then after that, we hear that Kanye and the choir will take over. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's because, well, you see it here. This is them from just a couple weeks ago at Lakewood Church here in Houston. Kanye made an appearance there. He also made an appearance at the Harris County Jail a couple days earlier, sang for some of the inmates. Obviously, he's known for his long hip-hop career, but he also recently released a gospel album as well. I actually got a chance to talk to Sheriff Gonzalez a couple days after Kanye made that stop, and he said that that music and the message really made a big impact on a lot of his inmates there. He told me that they felt seen and heard. So no word if he's going to do anything like that when he gets to New York, but really anything is possible because that jail visit was a surprise when he came here. Now the capacity at Yankee Stadium is going to be even bigger than Lakewood. It has about 10,000 more seats than Lakewood Church does. So they're just over 54,000 seats total at Yankee Stadium. But it definitely more than likely will sell out. Lakewood sold out very fast when Kanye came here. The last story I want to talk about this morning is one that we first heard about yesterday, but you guys have still been talking about it throughout the night and into the morning. We talked a lot about it on H-Town Rush, and that is, of course, the Rodeo. Now, we don't know the exact lineup yet, but what the Rodeo did do is they announced their concert genres, and we actually got to see on a calendar, you can see it right there, which days, which genres will happen. And obviously, not surprisingly, a lot of country on there, as you would expect with the Rodeo. That's standard. And they tend to bring in a lot of the A-listers from the country world. But what's really grabbing attention, K-pop. That's the group BTS right there. They're a huge Korean pop group, kind of a boy band from South Korea, excuse me, is kind of the way they've been described. Fans going nuts there on social media. A lot of speculation about Lizzo, too. That's because there are 2 nights of hip-hop. So a lot of fans are hoping that Houston's own Lizzo will be on that bill as well. I personally would love to see that. I got a chance to see her a couple months ago at Austin City Limits Music Festival. She was on a side stage because originally when they booked her, Truth Hurts hadn't blown up the way that it did over the summer, but there were easily probably 60,000 people, if not more there. Her crowd was spilling into the surrounding stages, and they actually had to put her up on the monitors. But yeah, the K-pop is getting a lot of headlines this morning. Also EDM, electronic dance music. That's, to my knowledge, that's a new one for the Rodeo too. They also have Latin Pop Night, Norteño, so just a bunch of different styles that are being thrown in there and kind of mixed around with what we're used to seeing. So we put a poll up this morning asking what you guys think of the change, some of the new genres that are in there. Do you like it, or is it maybe is it a little bit too much? And most of the responses we got this morning, I think it was around like 80% the last time we checked. A lot of you guys said you weren't really feeling the changes. Maybe a lot of country purists out there, I don't know. We also heard from another guy who is a big fan of rock music, and he was upset that the rock genre was being kind of cast to the side this year, and the K-pop was being put in its place. But that group, BTS, they have a huge following around the world. There are people that are saying that if they end up being the group that's on there, again, we don't know the exact artist, but if they end up being the group on there could be people flying in from around the world to come here to Houston, to go to Energy, just to see those concerts at the Rodeo. So we'll know the exact lineup early January. They're going to announce 17 of the 20 artists that day, January 9th, I believe. So most of them that day. Tickets will go on sale about a week later. And then in the beginning part of February, that's when we'll hear about the final 3, and then tickets will go on sale shortly after that. So we want to know what you think. Obviously, vote in the poll if you'd like. We'd love to hear your comments there. But also, if you want to leave a comment on the feed of, what do you think of the change in genres this year? Is there any certain artists you hope comes here that you want to see? Are you disappointed that there's not a genre on there? We'd love to know what you think about that. So we'll give you guys a few minutes to comment. But, rodeo time, usually in March, always in March, really, and great weather that time of year. Not too different from what we're feeling outside. Sunny, 70s, and I guess there could be a cool front on the way. So for more on that, let's send it over to Erica Lopez.
Yeah, it's actually been such a nice week, and the stretch continues, guys. We are so spoiled here in Houston. This morning, low 50s, a few 40s out there, so not too cold, but pretty pleasant for this time of the year. Slightly above average for our afternoon high, 70s, but guys, low humidity, we will take it. Okay, here's what's going on across the country. Want to focus in on the West Coast because these systems that are moving in, they are coming from the West Coast. So as far as what we're tracking is the next cold front that will impact us over the weekend, or at least what's behind it over the weekend. So this front slicing through Texas at the moment, and right now it is bringing in lots of heavy snow for folks across the Four Corners. Check out this system though. This is the next area of low pressure that will be moving along the West Coast, and this area of low pressure is going to bring in some major flooding that California is going to see on top of what they've already seen. So this is a series of very wet weather that has brought beneficial rain, but too much is not too good because we've also had some mudslides. We've had some flooding for Southern California. Very beneficial snow for the Sierra Mountains. But as far as what we're chatting about for Texas, it's been just ridiculously beautiful. Clear skies as of right now. Clouds are going to move in today, though. Overnight tonight, mostly cloudy skies will be intact, and that's going to lead us to the next front that will push through, which is tomorrow morning. So another day with mid-70s. Yesterday, we topped out in the 70s. Today, same story. It's about 8 degrees above average if we top out in the mid-70s again this afternoon. Again, the only change will be a few more clouds that we factor in. Timing of the front moving through. Here we are late tonight. It's moving through Dallas. And then for us here in Houston, we're talking about the cold front pushing through by very early tomorrow morning. This is around 5:30 a.m., give or take an hour or so, depending where you live. And notice it's pretty dry. So rain chances are at about a 10% chance. So you might not even notice that the front's moving through. Anytime it's coming from the Pacific, it's not dragging in cold air. So we're not going to have that instant chill, that instant cool down. And the fact that most of the moisture is north of us, we don't have the rain also. So 10% chance of rain in the forecast. And then check out your weekend forecast. Highs in the 60s, low 70s, still low humidity, and then lows in the 50s. So my kind of weather. If you're not a fan of the extreme colds and if you're not a fan of the heat, it's going to be perfect out there. Next 3 days, only rain chance is at 10% because of the front moving through. Most of us will be dry, but there's a look at that temperature drop. 60s to kick off the upcoming weekend. It's looking fabulous. Okay, 7-day forecast does get us a little bit busier as we fast forward to early next week. That's the additional storm that will drag in some cooler Canadian air. So that storm will actually allow us to drop to the 50s and notice morning lows back in the 30s. So if you want that colder air, it arrives next week. Until then, we have a pretty nice weekend ahead. All right, I'll toss things back to Adam Bennett.
Awesome, Erica. Thank you so much. I figured we'd go over to Jaime now and just see if you guys have any comments, any questions. Jaime?
Oh yeah, quite a few comments and questions. First, I always like to start off by saying good morning to those of you who are watching. Good morning to Rosie. She gave me a little shout out. She was asking if I was running the things behind the scenes, and so I am. I'm running all the controls. Good morning to Ernesto. Good morning to Joseph. Good morning to Ken. Just thank you guys for watching. We're getting a lot of reaction to this morning's statement from the speaker, and just questions about the impeachment process. GR asking how long could this take before we can reach any sort of decision. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how long this process could take to play out.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I heard something about senators blocking off time in January. I mean, I think this is definitely going to go well into the new year, at least in the beginning part of January. But we can follow up on that and try to get you a little bit better answer. But I know that at least on the House side, they're definitely trying to speed this up, and a lot of people think this vote could happen by Christmas.
And I don't know if this is necessarily the case, but I guess it could be. Sue says, what's crazy is that the president could be impeached but still get reelected, and I guess so. If I mean, obviously, if the Senate doesn't follow through on their part, then obviously he can still be reelected. Even after the House has voted for impeachment.
Right. Yeah. So again, that impeachment, if it happens, is just like being charged with a crime.
Right.
But he would still be in office. I know that was the case with President Clinton back in the 90s. After he was impeached as well, he remained in office.
Yeah. Rosie, again, going back to Rosie again, she seems like she's very excited about this K-pop night at the Rodeo.
Yeah.
She's a big fan of BTS. So, and oddly enough, even though I know it's gotten to be such a big and very popular genre, I have yet to hear any music actually from the genre. I have no idea what the sound is like, or what makes it different, or what makes it stands out.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say the first time I actually heard it was during H-Town Rush this morning. We played a little snippet, coming out of one of the breaks, and we were talking about them. It's got very upbeat, high energy, very pop as you would expect with with the name, and a lot of the choreographed dance moves, and the guys are all young, well dressed, and it is kind of a kind of boy band is the description that I heard, and that seems to be pretty accurate. But I mean, they have a huge following. I mean, absolutely huge. That was the overwhelming reaction when the rodeo posted this genre lineup is fans of K-pop hoping that it was BTS and saying they would do whatever it takes to be able to be there at that show if they do end up playing here.
Is there any, any night or any genre that you're kind of looking forward to at the rodeo?
Just out of curiosity, I am curious about the K-pop thing. I would almost want to almost say that I'd been and say that I'd seen it. Mm-hmm. I admit I was a little bit disappointed when I saw that rock wasn't on there. I'm not sure what I would trade it out for necessarily because all the genres look really, really interesting. But like I saw Kings of Leon this past year. I thought they put on a great show. I think the rodeo does a great job of bringing in really good rock acts. But I'm excited to see Latin pop. I think that could be fun. Mm-hmm. I know somebody in our newsroom was hoping it would be Bad Bunny, so we'll see. But hip hop. I love hip hop. So if it was Lizzo, I wouldn't mind seeing her again. She put on an amazing show, and especially in Houston, to see her here in her hometown at the rodeo crowd on the revolving stage. And that was something that somebody brought up actually this morning. They mentioned that at the AMAs, American Music Awards, a couple weeks ago, she was actually on a rotating stage, not too different from what we see at the rodeo. So they were thinking, okay, maybe she's getting some practice reps in.
I've been back here in Houston for almost a little over 7 years now, and I hate to admit this, but I've yet to go to the rodeo. I mean,
Are you serious? You've never been.
So I've been plenty of times when I was younger, and seen plenty of acts. Got to see Garth Brooks in the early '90s when he was really starting to get big.
Yeah.
But I have not been back since. I guess I just don't feel like braving the crowds. Although the draw of the food always kind of intrigues me because that's one of the things I always love going for was all the great food and stuff like that.
Yeah, and every year there's always something different. Some new food that they figure out a way to deep fry and put a bunch of powdered sugar on.
And I guess some of the acts haven't really necessarily appealed to me, and I guess I would love to just continue to see like more Texas acts. Maybe a few more like say rock bands and stuff like that to come in.
Yeah.
Not that I have any issues with any of the genres that they have on the schedule now. I think that it's all great. It's really great that they've continued to make it a little bit more diverse. But it hasn't drawn me in just yet.
Yeah, a lot of the times I've been have been when I've had friends that they're going in a group and they just say, hey man, we got an extra ticket, you want to come along? And maybe the headliner that night wasn't necessarily somebody that I would have like actively tried to get tickets and go see, but I always end up enjoying the shows, no matter which one I see. And as weird as this is, growing up in Texas, I didn't listen to a whole lot of country music growing up, but actually going to the rodeo and seeing a lot of those bands live has been great. Like, it's made me a fan of a lot of the acts. I mean, I saw Cole Swindell, I saw Luke Bryan. I haven't seen a bad show at the rodeo so far. So it's kind of fun just to, take a chance and go see someone that you haven't seen before. So personally, I'm excited. Even the EDM thing kind of sounds intriguing too, and how that's going to translate to the giant arena on the rotating stage.
Yeah. So I do want to bring something up here because one of our viewers is is kind of has a question. She says, we've only mentioned pro-Trump comments and asking why, and believe me, we're not really this is not a pro or for or against the president kind of when we read off comments, but we do try to, when repeating something on there, we do try to keep it very civil.
Right.
So sometimes the language gets a little out of hand as when people start commenting about the situation, and as this continues to play out. So we've only tried to pick ones I think I can repeat, and safely summarize on the fly. Because we obviously have taken no side in this, of course, as a station.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Try to be as neutral as possible.
Yeah.
Anything else? That's about it?
I think that's about it.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for all the comments and questions. Thank you for kind of rolling with me on this as my first solo go around with this. Again, I did this with Brandy yesterday. She's a very tough act to follow. She does an amazing job on this every single day. But we will have another one of these digital updates at 2:30 this afternoon. We'll see you then. Have a great morning.